Yeah, well, it's a busy week. It could be a very busy month. So it's always nice to come into these cup weeks with a buoyant feel around the group. And Saturday's result certainly does that. Finally got a decent session in today after some inclement weather, so we're trending in the right direction, and everyone looks in really good shape, mentally and physically, towards Wednesday's game.
Excellent. We'll start with Brian McKeegan, then we'll go to Ben Wright.
Does it help, in these cup games that you know this opponent? Does it help, like, as opposed to last week where?
Yeah, I think it does a little bit. Of course, I don't think anyone knows exactly who's going to be out on the field, but for the most part, Dallas have got a very distinctive style about their play. Highly possession-oriented team, some very good technical players, and of course they're going very decently in the Western Conference. And last year we had a couple of excellent games against them that were very, very competitive. So yeah, there'll be a little bit of understanding and appreciation. They've obviously played at Geodis. That little bit of understanding of one or two of their players having been in that conference last year. But I would suspect in some way, shape or form that Saturday's game will have affected their team or their, maybe some of the choices that they make. Whether that's, we're going to put the same group out because we didn't have a full 90 minutes at the weekend, or we're going to make some changes. One way or the other, the game of the weekend will have affected a lot of things, I'm sure, in the manager's mind.
Much like yourself, then, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of teams are in a similar position. It is very, very difficult to just keep turning out the same players. It is always nice when we've got pretty much a full complement of individuals and staff to choose from. There were a lot of things out of the San Antonio game that I was very pleased with. Some of those players who had an opportunity, I thought, if not at their very best, were in a much better position and benefited from that game as well. And after a tough game at the weekend, there's always one or two players out of that you want to maybe take the sting out of the week for, knowing that we've got an accumulation of games coming up. But certainly want to put a team out there that have got what we would all look at and say is the backbone and the shape of a first team group, if not all of them, and one that can win the game.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, you mentioned on Saturday that you expected to get some more info on Walker today. Do you have any info, an update on him? And then Randall looked like he was pretty active. Do you expect him to be involved?
So as far as Walker's concerned, I think we're in a position where the scan has not revealed anything too sinister, which is great news. He's feeling something in that area that we need to be sensible about, but the diagnosis is far, far better than I think any of us felt, player and all staff concerned. So whilst I would think he'll be a doubt for Wednesday, that is for sure, I think we're trending towards the weekend at this point, which will be great news. As far as Randall's concerned, he's in a much better spot. He looks lively, he looks bright, and I would hope that there's plenty of the game on Wednesday that he can utilise to get himself up to what we would class as much better match speed. And
then you kind of touched on this a second ago, but I think in the San Antonio game you made 9 changes to your team. Just playing an MLS opponent, maybe a little bit better quality, does that kind of change how you approach it, or do you want to rest guys as much as possible?
I think it has to, Ben. We're at home. There's no reason why we can't put a side out that has got, like I said, a look of a first team group. there's no reason. I have all the benefits of making sure that I've got players on the line. I haven't got to worry about travel. What that looks like is a little bit different. The shape of the group, I thought, worked very, very well against a San Antonio group. Is it something that we look at again? Possibly. But in terms of the makeup of the team, there'll be a team out there that's more than capable of winning it.
Any more follow-ups on the floor? Awesome. We'll transition over to the Zoom. We'll start with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Gary, as you kind of reviewed what you guys performed like on Saturday evening, was there anything other than obviously Hani's performance that kind of jumped off the page to you in terms of how you guys were able to kind of have your way, or was it a situation where, you know, it just wasn't Chicago's night? Have you kind of, I guess, come to any further conclusions than you had immediately after the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always certain aspects of the game that you want to take advantage of, and the early stages of any game, I do think, in many cases, dictate where the game's going to go, and it's a lot harder to try and retrieve some lost momentum than actually, you know, try and make the most of any sort of positive play that you've created at that point. I was very, very happy with the mindset and the energy that we applied to that opening 15 minutes. And I thought it sent a message that, you know, we're here to try and make the very most of this game and win it, and not mentally be distracted by the changes that they made, for whatever the reasons were for that. And I would point to the fact that someone like Shaqiri, who is a top-class DP, is hardly a change in the wrong direction, is it? Let's be honest. Shabilko has scored a truckload of goals at Philadelphia and was a big money move. So I would certainly say in many of the instances, the guys that were in the group are highly experienced and talented individuals. So I think we made the most of maybe a group that have not been on the field together as a team that often, and in a shape that they haven't played that often, and to jump on top of them was important. We should have and could have made it maybe an even easier night in that first period. The fact that it took us as long as it did to get our noses and a bit of daylight between us and them was a tad concerning at times, given the amount of efforts at goal and shots on target and pressure that we had. Our set pieces looked as exciting as we've seen for a long while. All in all, a very, very positive night for our group. I thought Lucas had a wonderful debut for an hour. Very, very pleased with what he gave the group. I think that midfield shape continues to show some real positives and benefits. And all in all, you know, with a clean sheet and Joe's 100th appearance for the team, I think he's first to get there. It would have been a lovely milestone for him, and certainly for the group to come out of this 3-game league, you know, stand, if you like, at home, and to get 7 out of 9 points is a good haul.
You mentioned Lucas there, and you briefly touched on him after the match. How does he fit into your plans going forward? Obviously, you just mentioned that Walker will almost certainly not be available on Wednesday. Do you anticipate Lucas being maybe that next man up in the rotation behind Walker and Jack?
I mean, absolutely. I thought his performance off the back of what has also been a difficult couple of weeks for him. I think I'd mentioned that we actually signed him knowing that he'd had a little bit of a difficulty the weekend prior to his trade. So we knew that he wasn't going to be available straight away, but he'd had a Friday session. You know, he'd done some work before that to see where his groin was at, but he showed a lot of character. He was highly positive about being in the group and stepping up, and I thought his performance reflected that. So Look, my hope is always that we're bringing players in that are going to challenge for starting positions, and his performance at the weekend does that. That means when certain individuals dip below levels that we expect, there's someone ready and waiting, and that can only be good for any team, and certainly for us. How that evolves over the course of the next week, I think he's come in feeling great, no reaction to the weekend, so he'll certainly be an individual that we can think about for Wednesday and towards the weekend. And who knows, you know, hopefully all three of them are fit, and I've got a big decision to make.
If there's time for one more, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, cool. You mentioned that Randall will hopefully be back on Wednesday, knock on wood, I guess. But obviously, we've seen a lot of him over the 4 years he's been here. What sort of dynamic is he going to add back into your team when he is available again? You know, what have you maybe been missing that he can provide?
Well, you've only got to cast your mind back to it's not that long ago, to the New York City game where he had an outstanding 75 minutes. It certainly feels like a lifetime ago, but it's only 11 league games ago, 10. You know, he's so versatile in that attacking role, midfield role, his energy, his enthusiasm. You know, his overall creation with the ball, and he's a catalyst for a lot of things that go on in that attacking third of the field. It would just be great to have him back in the group and a different dimension. You know, I think Alex has done a wonderful job. I think Luke, when he's come in, has done a wonderful job. We obviously have Jacob and Fafa have been doing terrifically well and have got themselves on the score sheet. And I'm talking about guys in those wider areas of the field where Randall's predominantly played. All of those guys thoroughly deserve the opportunities that they've had and the minutes that they've had. But I think Randall does present a very different problem to opposing teams. He can get in between the lines. He's very comfortable in tight areas with the ball. As I've said, his overall positivity when he's in and around the ball and linking with others just gives us a different dynamic. And whether that's straight away or whether that's part of a process, it just asks a new question. It gives me a new opportunity and a different decision and dynamic that I can add to the group. So it can only be good for the team.